Really pleased to introduce Sheffield College. I think we have Stephen Spence. Stephen, are you there?
You do have me, yes.
Always a pleasure. Please take it away.
Good morning, all. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's a strange one because our people who know a lot about this, our digital team were meant to do this gig, but then they couldn't. So they were like, "You're going to have to do it, Steve." So you stuck with me. It was a slightly different. I think it'll work actually because it's slightly different from the two brilliant presentations you've heard previously. So I'm looking at it from the perspective of teaching, learning, assessment, as I'll talk shortly. So yeah, the Sheffield College we're a large college in the north of England with roughly 15,000 students and a huge staff body. So I'm going to sort of a little bit about the journey of how we've used Google specifically for my passion, the thing that I do at this college as the assistant principal for teaching and learning and innovation, which is how do we like improve delivery so the students have a great time. So I'll talk you through that. Simon, it's quite good fun to sort of boss you around and say carry on a little bit. Couple of slides. So the first few slides, as I've said, we've done a little intro into Sheffield. So if you pop it on a couple, Simon, that would be great. The next one's just talking about the teaching and learning. So I think, yeah, there I am, looking a bit younger when I first came here. So yeah, as I've mentioned, it's all about how Google Workspace now, how the sort of the breath of fresh air and how it's really underpinned our much of our processes and delivery and frameworks is probably the most effective word to use there. The frameworks that we have for our teaching and learning. So just to give you a few interesting aspects on the next slide. So before Google, we primarily, well, I think the first thing to say about the college, and this is, I'm going back, I've literally just finished my 5 years here at the college. So it was 2018 in October when I joined. And I was brought in to really help and develop teaching and learning and how we deliver learning to our students. You know, I think it's fair to say on here that the college at the time was at the lower end of what we would call achievement, which means, you know, how many students achieve the qualifications that they should once they start with us at the college. And we offer learning from all levels, from entry all the way up to higher degrees. So it's a big differential. But we weren't where we wanted to be. And my remit really was to come in and really start to think about the teaching and learning aspects of that. And a huge, you know, a huge element of that is obviously the digital aspects of teaching and learning, whether that be asynchronous or synchronous, the tools that we're using. So I think from my perspective, in those first 6 months to 18 months, we were finding what I would call a very disparate and mixed model approach to teaching and learning when it came to technology. One teacher would use this, one teacher would use that. There was no really strategic direction in what we wanted to do with our teaching and learning. Unbelievably, that is on the same course. So a student could walk into one group and be given work to do on their online platform on this, and then they could go to another teacher and get a completely different online platform. So I started to realize that we needed to do something a little bit more on that aspect. And then, as I say, the 18 months to 2 years, I've done a lot of internal research to really know where we needed to go from a teaching and learning perspective. And that was the decision where we said, well, look, we need to have something that gives us a framework to then build out from. So obviously, being here, you've worked out that it was no disclaimers here, but obviously Google. And I think that from my perspective, on the right-hand side there, it dates back. We really started to push this in the summer of 2020. We knew from January 2020 that we were going to move to Google. So we were doing a lot of work in the background to create some additional training programs and things such as that. But we launched that in the summer of 2020, obviously, as we were going into the pandemic. But from my perspective, you know, it was really key. I want students to be able to download one set of apps primarily. And Richard just mentioned there, for me, I want the student experience. I actually want it to be simple, and I want it to be simple also and easy to use for the staff. So that was one of the key takeaways for me in putting in the Google operating system fundamentally for all of our teaching and learning. I'll talk more about that later. a couple of how important some of those stats are at the bottom there, because you might look at that and go, oh, what does that mean? It means a lot. So a 10 percentage point increase in college achievement is huge. You know, it's a huge effort for the college to progress that, and that's continued to go up over the last few years. You know, as I mentioned, the college were towards the lower end of achievement. That means students were starting, and a lot of them were leaving without completing programs, etc. We are now, from being towards the lower end in our sector, we are now towards way above the national benchmarks and towards the upper end, which is a great achievement for our college. The good aspect, you know, is a phenomenal achievement. Again, we border further education, and then we have higher education frameworks that we have to keep in line with here. And one of the reasons we were brought here, but through these improvements in teaching and learning, which was huge, we achieved a good Ofsted report in 22. We knew we were going to get it in 22. We're really confident. We had no issues because we knew the work that we'd done day in, day out, week in, week out, month in. So, but that was the first time in 10 years that the college had achieved that. And a lot of that was down to the quality of the teaching and learning that we've improved subsequently over time. And what's also really key in there is the teaching excellence framework for a college existing outside the normal HE landscape. We're really pleased to have set our stall out and got a silver to start with. And a lot of that, again, there was aspects of our framework that we were putting in that we were saying our online frameworks are really good. There's judgments you have to put in from the student voice into the teaching excellence framework, into that judgment. And our judgments of learning and quotes around online were really high, above the sector average. So we were delighted with that. And again, that goes to what we've seen here. And that sort of last number, you sort of know you've cracked it when you have 900 plus classrooms set up, you know, and that's all our teachers, all our deliveries done through Google. We don't have we don't have mixed models. It's like a bit of a, when they come in, it's not a doctrine, but when they walk in, it's like, right, good, you go in there, you get your induction. We need you to be able to deliver learning how we want. So there's some really good things in that aspect. Simon, if you just move us on, thank you. I wanted to put this in there because it goes to that when we start focusing on creating change, and change is really important. I want to see I want to see people's practice change. I don't just want to give them some feedback and nothing happens. There has to be a change for anything to have improved. So we started really small here at Sheffield when we were thinking about what we wanted this innovation, what we wanted our digital platform to look like. So one of the key principles, I remember in my interview with the principal, and it was a case of, oh, we've got some great people who use technology here. And you know what? They absolutely did. Some absolutely fantastic users of technology in 2018. But the problem is, there's probably no more than 5% of the staff cohort who use that. So we needed to sort of start small, but grow that out. And it's not just a case of, well, I don't use technology because my subject doesn't like it, or I don't use technology because, well, I'm a bit older and it's not something that I need to use. Technology was for everybody. So that was one of our absolute key strategic priorities, to get that message out that all of you will benefit from the use of technology in some way. And then we sort of started to just grow that through word of mouth. You know, I know it sounds strange now, but even going back like 5 years and people using Google Forms for the first time and going, oh, that's amazing. I can do like plenaries, I can do starter activities. And all of a sudden we had a community of practice on how to use Google Forms effectively, and it sort of runs through the organization. And then we get to the final aspect here, the influence in pedagogical change. Now, you know, in the theoretical models around this, you've obviously got the SAMR model, which the R stands for redefinition, and then you've got the RAP model from the early 2000s of that T standing for transformation. And that's where the technology probably pushes it beyond where it could go without that. And I do like those couple of models as a way of thinking about it. And that's what we wanted to start seeing. You know, the first and foremost is, what do you want to do in your teaching and learning? Right, okay. And if there's a way of using technology to enhance something or redefine it or transform it as per the models, then we've got to be able to put that in practice. So we started to get to that. And as I've said, it's just grown and grown and grown. And we have these different scales and levels where we want staff to be able to work. But everybody needs to have that understanding of exactly what they're trying to achieve in their teaching and learning practices, the impact of the students, and the beauty of that is we still get people. I'm actually sat in a room off my innovation centre here, and we just get people coming in daily without bookings saying, I need to be able to achieve this, and they'll sit with a digital technologist and they'll just leave and go, wow, I can now implement that in my practice, which is great. Thank you, Simon. So a couple of key factors to share from my perspective, what was successful. So the staff structure was key. So as I've just mentioned there, we've got a fantastic team, small team you could say for the size, but we've got a team of digital and e-learning technologists who are just fantastic. And one of the things we wanted to do was make them unbelievably accessible. When I first came here, they were a little bit, nobody really knew them, and they are so talented. So it was about getting them out, making sure people knew where they were, making sure. So the best thing we did, we gave them the two biggest spaces at both of our campus here at City. Massive spaces, called them innovation centres. Everybody can just come in and find these, get some help. So that was really key. We also have a group of staff called learning development coaches, who again they're our advanced practitioners, and they are all, although they have different specialisms from a teaching and learning perspective, they're also well advanced in terms of their use of technology in Google Workspace. So that's been fantastic. And actually, they've also really driven what we're doing. In fact, a couple are in Dublin right now because they've sent me a few messages last night, and it looks like they're having a great time. But they're on the sort of that advanced. A little bit on strategic direction. I like things. I'm not a control, but this always surprises people. I'm not a control freak, but there are things that you need from your executive team. And I needed the full buy-in. I needed everybody to say that actually, when you come here, you are using Google for your teaching and learning. You need that strategic direction. You need that strategic backing. And that's one of the, again, something we worked on really key. And the strategy wasn't really long, and it didn't take loads of years, because as you know, if we'd have done that, COVID would have completely changed it anyway. The blow up of AI now. So it's literally, we've just got a few pillars of strategies that we like. And as I've mentioned already, one of them is that everybody has to use technology in some way. That's, it didn't take me long to write that pillar, but that is a really key aspect of what we were trying to do. And then moving to the other side, high quality CPD. We've been working on that, and we pride ourselves on that, because that's what gives you the element into what we're doing. I mean, this summer, we've spent a lot of time on practice sets. We've spent a lot of time looking at how Bard can be integrated, a lot of time on using, we've just started a trial with Duet, and we're going to follow the same processes of what we've done before. We know who we need to go to. We will start with our digital team, our learning development coaches team, our advanced teachers, and then we'll cascade all of the different things out. And that digital development has been a huge aspect of what we're trying to do. If we want all our teachers, and we get the differential of teachers that we get coming into this institution is huge. Some may come straight from a university, 4-year PGC and come in and are quite capable on technology, etc., or at least they've got a little bit more of a grounded framework. But we have people, in fact, literally just in my innovation centre now, we've got a centre with 12 people who've come straight from industry and start teaching next week. So you've got to factor that into the development that you're trying to do for people. And I think we've done that quite well here. Next slide, please, Simon. I will, in typical dual coding fashion, I will just let you read that for a second rather than talk over it and ruin it. Hopefully that's just about long enough. So this is a really key couple of quotes in there. And I think from my perspective, as you can see, my passion really is about how students learn. And 15 years of research has primarily been around that. And my doctorate, that's kind of where it was, this aspect of how we learn, how does technology fit into that? So you can see from my quote, I was always thinking about, what do you need to do in your practice? So if I've got a teacher who needs retrieval practice every Monday, how can you fit that in through Google? if you need to have a collaborative space that students can work, how are you going to put that in? That's where I come from at first. Simon, the quote on the right, an absolute superstar, who's the digital and e-learning team coordinator. It's really interesting reading that quote and speaking with him, because he was here before me. So he now he's even got he goes deeper back than me, and it's speaking with him, he's very technical, but the fact that he sees it being used so much and gets the regular comments from the staff is great. So you get a bit of teaching and learning and the technology all working together there. Thank you, Simon. Next slide. Yeah, so I think because we feel we've got this, there's little things we could have always done better, but actually what we've developed now is sort of this endemic curiosity and innovation throughout the college, and and that is genuine. If you come here on any given day, we can take you to different bits and see whatever it is in all different curriculum areas. So if Simon just pops it on again, I'm hoping that the next slide is so we worked really hard on this digital development program. So what we did was, obviously, Google Materials are fantastic, and I know that they've slightly tweaked the names of these now. As I've said, I think the coaching programs now are fantastic, and the educator programs brilliant. But what we also wanted to do was we wanted to match an internal program to the external programs to make sure that staff had, again, going back to that differential of staff who've maybe not even switched on a computer for 10 years. We wanted to make sure that they were supported in these digital explorers and these digital adopter methods, all the way up to being able to feel confident. So we created our own program. And on the next slide, Simon, there's just a couple of little, yes. So this is all developed by us at the Sheffield College in line. And what we did was, it's a layered program. We look at the research, and people like Diane Laurillard, who for many years has talked about why has technology why has it never broken the threshold in education, and why have teachers never truly adopted it? Well, certainly for my 15 years, a lot of it is because they can't. There's a lot of technical reasons in there before you can adopt technology. So Lee Shulman in the 80s is a classic author about what he would call content knowledge when you're delivering learning, and what he would call pedagogical knowledge, i.e. how you deliver that learning. Well, if you think in technology there's something else missing there, you then need technical skills. So you need technological knowledge, and there is the TPAC framework of 2006 that would go through that. And it's a really good way of looking at it. You need something else. So this program was there to go, hey, look, we put on loads of sessions for you, but if you can't come to them, you can go into your Digital Explorer, which is our foundational level. And if you click in any of those, if you click in Classroom, there's 10 videos. They're all about 1:30 long, because we know the segmenting principle, Richard Mayer, we know that that's the best way to sort of devise your media learning. And it will tell you. So you need to set up a Google Classroom for the first time, click on that, and then you can do it. And we did it like that. And the pace at which we saw the transformation of staff was something to be proud of. And as you can see, as I'm talking, it's been a really good move what we've done there. And then because of that, it gives you more chance to innovate. You're not just getting, as I alluded to earlier, you're not just getting handfuls of people and people going, oh, we use technology well, but 95% of your cohort don't. We've now got loads of people innovating, people you would have never thought would do it. And if Simon just pops on to the next couple of slides here, and I'll go through these quite quickly. So I put this on there because this is just one example of how we've been able to integrate things like VR. But this is staff coming to us saying that they want to be able to do that. And it all stems out of the sort of feeling confident in the workspace apps. Because they're so confident, it's easy to build on that. And as I mentioned earlier, one of the things we will only do, everything has to work well with Google. So this is a great example. So we've worked with this group here, we've built some virtual reality for them. And as you see, we've done catering, we've done animal care. You wouldn't necessarily think these staff, curriculum staff, would come to you and go, this is what we want to do, but they have. And even the next one, we've got construction there. And the beauty of this is, we build this, which is, you could say, a little bit more advanced for them. And they drove this, the curriculum team drove it. But what I love is, it all ties back to Google. So as we know, the students do this. What we don't want them to do is, they need to revisit this material before the following week. So Google Forms, just your simple Google Forms, were integrated, released to the students through Google Classroom exactly 24 hours after they would do this. And then it was opened again prior to the following lesson. Trying to eliminate that forgetting curve in the first week of learning. So really good pedagogical practice, sort of enacted through really positive use of Workspace, and then wider things that fit well with it. And then, yes, you'll be pleased to know, I could have put loads of different things up here to finish, but I just wanted to put two powerful quotes down by the two people who've actually, again, who are now Google trainers. They're phenomenal. So I'll let you read both of these. And I hope that's okay. I know it's slightly different, but hopefully there's some ideas from a teaching, and I'll put my email in, and again, the Richard, really technical side, and I'll definitely pass your email on to Simon here. But if anybody wants anything to do with staff development and how you can really, the teachers deliver learning, so they'll always be the biggest priority to me. How you take teachers on a journey in any institution is probably the biggest thing you have to do, certainly in my role. Thank you.
Stephen, thank you so much. I mean, it's always a pleasure to hear a presentation from you, but I think we can all agree, like, just some really, really, really useful insights. And when you think about the gamut of presentations we've had from our wonderful customers, that's fascinating too. I think there's probably a lot of learning across the different presentations, touching different things, right? Like the how do we get the adoption happening? How do we support the actual teaching and learning? And then there's the how do we make this work with technology, and how is it useful for us? How does it save time for us? You know, how does it keep our users safe and protected? So there was a lot shared there. If anyone has any questions for Stephen, please feel free to pop any in. And I'm sure he'll be happy to answer them. He put me on the spot, and I'm going to put him on the spot. Go on, Jamie. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Simon, and absolutely great presentations from all the presenters. So much to reflect and think about. But Stephen, one of the things that I'm interested in terms of how you've achieved what you've done is how critical do you think it's been to have a sustained program of strategic workforce development and training rather than CPD done in isolation, which is what I see in an awful lot of colleges and universities done across the world. It seems to me from what you've presented that you had a very sustained strategic approach to it in the long term. And how critical do you think that's been?
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. I actually think it's really critical. I go back to, I don't know, he was one of my PGC teachers, and he published it in a book, and he talked about sheep dip CPD. And I always remember that, and I've always tried to move away from that and do it more program and expect it to be, over time. So that is absolutely key. And I think some of the pillars I talked about earlier, the sort of strategic direction, the executive sort of support, and then you having that framework. And as I've said, Google, we about 18 months of research before we said that everything now needs to go through Google from a teaching and learning perspective. And that's what allows you to have that sort of ongoing CPD platform, if that makes sense. And there was loads of bits of research that we did before we talked about putting in Google there, obviously student voice, speaking with staff. But it's a decision that, I would never change in any institution in the future. I would never change for, because the ease of use that an electrician straight from trade can come in and use something so useful has just been, from a teaching and learning perspective, I know there's the other security things in the background, has just been, absolutely phenomenal. So yeah, brilliant.
Brilliant, thanks for that. I think Ian had a question. Yeah, go Ian.
Yeah, it was just a quick question, Stephen. I put in about adoption, and everybody can get tired, can't they, of having to continually learn things. But do you feel that you've got a process whereby all these schemes that you've put in place help different people learn in different ways, but as an organization, you are going up these steps of digital competency?
Yeah. Again, I think the sort of long-term strategic approach mentioned with Jamie's question and now yours, Ian, has been huge, allowing us to sort of have that. And the interesting thing is, it's quite strange, this might surprise you, that one of the first things we did when we wrote the digital development program was get rid of loads of stuff, because people were getting, oh, try this week, try that next, try this, try that. And we actually brought it in, and we actually went, do you know what? Everyone in this organization needs to be able to use Google Classroom, Drive, Forms immediately. And then from that, you can build out, because you've got to, it's like everything, you've got a platform and then you can build. So now that we start to put AI into the mix, for example, it's easier because we've already got people working on a good level. And it's just, I think that foundational sort of strategic framework's been great. And you know, we're currently working on how we can develop skills in the region now. You know, and that's going to be a huge thing for getting out to places where people in the region don't even know how to use basic technology. So we've got a program as part of our local skills plan here to do that. So that's going to be the next big thing we do. So yeah, I'm just really impressed with little. I don't want to make it sound like everything's gone. It was easy. It really wasn't. There's a lot of late nights, and there was the odd thing that had gone wrong, and the odd time that you head in hands and you're crying. But you know, it was all worth it, and we learn every day. But we are in a good position now.
Fantastic. Thanks again, Steve. Thanks to all the presenters from the wonderful institutions represented here today. University of Ferrara, University of York, Sheffield College. Fantastic. Really appreciate it. And I'm sure there'll be more questions at other times. And yeah, we just thank you so much for your time.